Hello and welcome to another episode of Draft Gym TV. As always, you are joined by me, Andy, FPL Teach Mode, and this week we are going to be talking about Group B of the Euro competitions. Now, obviously, we are talking about FanTeam. FanTeam have their daily fantasy Euro 2020 £1 million guaranteed prize pool, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we get you prepared and get you ready to try and win some money. It starts on the 11th of June. Plenty of time, and we are going to be guiding you through each group and talking about predicted lineups, talking about bargains, talking about key players, and just talking about how you're going to set your team up ready to attack this competition as best as possible. It's only a £20 entry. If you're going to place in this competition, you're going to be getting your money back and then some. So it is worth a go. Now, as I said already, today we're going to be talking about Group B. And if you have a look just underneath me there, you can see the Group B players going around. You can see the teams going around and their prices. You'll also be able to see the fixtures and the teams that are involved in Group B. Now, if we have a look at the teams that are involved in Group B, they are Belgium, Denmark, Finland, and Russia. Straight away, the team that kind of sticks out there is Belgium. Yes, Belgium are going to be heavy favourites for this. They are in the top 3, top 4 teams that are considered contenders to win this tournament. And I think there are some key players in there that are expensive, and rightly so. There are also some little bargains you can get in Belgium as well. So we'll be talking about those a little bit. I would say this group is the group of traps. I think there are a lot of players that are going to be picked by a lot of people in this group. And I'm not. I think that there are a few traps in here, but we're going to talk about that as we go on. So Belgium's the first team. We're also going to be talking about Denmark. Denmark are in this team, in this group, and I quite like Denmark as a team. So we're going to be talking about those a little bit too. There is Finland as well, with leading the line is Teemu Pukki, who we all know plenty about if we've been playing FPL for the last 2 seasons. And then Russia finishes this group off. So if we jump straight into it. Before I do jump straight into it, make sure you do check out Draft Gym, our website, the website I work for, because we will be having some Euro fantasy football content that will be coming out of our website pretty soon. And also, I think we do actually have some stuff already out. So make sure you check that out. Before we carry on, like and subscribe the YouTube channel as well, because we are just getting started, but I feel like we're on a roll now. So we'd love some likes and subscriptions as well. So this is the Belgium team. There are a few question marks about this Belgium team, one of which, as you can see, Eden Hazard wasn't in the game when I first made this lineup. He is now in the game. He's 11 million and he is a forward. For me, I would not be going near Eden Hazard if you paid me. He has had such injuries with Real Madrid this year. It has not worked as a move. He is in no kind of form at the moment either. I wouldn't be touching him. I think the only person you can touch in this Belgium team is the only attacking striker you can touch in this Belgium team is that main man, ex-Man United, now playing for Inter Milan, Romelu Lukaku. 11.5 million. I think you could look at that price at the end of this tournament and think that was a snip. I think in this group he's in, he could easily score against every one of these teams. And he is in supreme form for his club as well. He has just won Serie A, and I think for 11.5 million, he's been in every single one of my drafts. No matter what the format, he has been in every single one of my drafts. So he is definitely somebody you should be looking at. He knows how to lead the line. This Belgium team has a lot of creativity behind him, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be scoring goals. Now, I've done the unthinkable and I've started up front. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to go back to defence. I'm going to go back to the keeper. Courtois is as nailed as they come in this team in terms of goalkeepers, but for 7 million, I think that is a lot of money to be spending on a goalkeeper. Considering the fact you've also got to buy a reserve goalkeeper as well, I think 7 million is a lot of money. If you spent 4 million on your keeper, bought somebody like Ward from Wales, you're spending 11 million on your keepers, and they're not going to be getting you that many points, even if they're getting you clean sheets. So, although I like Courtois and I love the fact he's nailed, I don't think he's worth 7 million. Just my personal opinion. But when you come a little bit higher up and you start looking at this defence, yes, you've got someone like Alderweireld, who's 6.5 million. He is also nailed. Denayer is nailed and Vertonghen's nailed, I would say. So this is a very, very settled back line. But when you look at the fact that Vertonghen is 5.5 million compared to Alderweireld, who's 6.5, I would say Alderweireld's got very slightly more attacking output than Vertonghen, but not by much. And I think for that extra million, when you consider what you could pump into your attackers, I would be going for someone like Vertonghen instead. Now, somebody that I had in a lot of my drafts, and this is the first bit of controversy here, I love Meunier. Really, really like him. I've had him in my last Euros, actually, I had him, and he was a great player. The only problem is there is a little bit of uncertainty as to whether he is going to actually play, because Castagna has played incredibly well for Leicester this year, and there is talk about him replacing Meunier in the team. It could be that Thorgan Hazard, playing left wing back on the other side, might not play. If that's the case, then Castagna will be put into place there, and then Meunier on the right, which would be just as good. Castagna is also 5.5 million. I like the look of one of these. I really want to find out which one it is, and I think one of them will be in my team. So either Meunier or Castagna. I think because of the way this group is set up, Belgium assets should be looking good in your team for the whole group stages, if I'm honest. You can probably put 2 or 3 in your team, and you'd be pretty happy to hold them all the way through to the elimination stage. They're going to get through the group. I cannot see them not getting through the group, especially if you can be best placed third team and still get through. So they're going to be making it through. I think you can hold these. Lukaku will most likely be one of my captains in at least one of the game weeks as well. And I would like to have at least 2 in my team. I think Meunier or Castagna is going to be one of them. Lukaku is definitely going to be one. I won't be touching Dendoncker or Tielemans. Yes, I love Tielemans as a player. I think he's a cracking midfielder. And Dendoncker is also good at 6.5. But I fancy the chances of some of the other midfield options at that price. When you think Tielemans and Dendoncker are really there to make sure all the other players around them can play. Now, the man we haven't mentioned yet, one of the best players in the world, Kevin De Bruyne. I think he is in my team at the moment. And that's simply because on his day, he is unplayable and he can get you goals and assists. The only thing for me is he is one of the most expensive players in the game. 12.5 million means that you're going to have to be very, very shrewd and know what you're doing in all the other areas of your team. I do like him though. 12.5 million. He's going to be on corners. He's going to be on free kicks. He's going to be creating everything. If Lukaku scores, you wouldn't be that surprised if De Bruyne is the one setting it up. I think you can have him in your team again, and I think it's important talking about this when you're talking about the tournament long game. You're going to have De Bruyne in your team and hopefully not have to change him. It's just a shame he is 12.5. If he was 11.5, I think he'd be in everybody's team. But I think for 12.5, I think people are now thinking about whether they want him in their team. For me, he's a shoo-in. I can't see many others at that price that I would be that happy to invest in. Belgium are very good at getting out of the group stage. They're going to be very good against these smaller teams. I'm not sure how well they're going to do once they get out of it, but that's not what we're thinking about at the moment. All we're thinking about is making sure that in the group stage we're the best setup we can be to do well. This Belgium team for me screams points, screams goals, screams consistency as well, especially in defence too. I think they've gone an awfully long time making sure they always score a goal. So for me, that's brilliant. I'm going to be all on Lukaku, all on De Bruyne, and one of Meunier or Castagna I think I'm going to be on as well. I would not be touching either Hazard boys, unfortunately, and I wouldn't be touching Dendoncker or Tielemans either. If you fancy spending that much money on a goalkeeper, Courtois is nailed, and he is going to get you clean sheets, but for 7 million, I think you could probably better use that somewhere else. Now, next in the group, and second favourites to get out of this group as well, is Denmark. I think Denmark could do quite well in the Euros this year. Yes, they've got pedigree in the Euros, from years ago when they had Kasper's dad in goal, who obviously they won it. But I think there's some value here to be had. I do really like Kasper Schmeichel in goal, 5.5 million. Yes, they're going to be playing against Belgium, but I think the other teams, Finland and Russia, there's no reason why Denmark can't keep them out. They are a good defensive team. I think it is definitely worth saying that. 5.5 million for someone like Schmeichel, 1.5 million less than Courtois, where actually I think you could be getting save points, you could be getting some clean sheets as well. I quite like the Schmeichel pick. He's nailed, he's an assured keeper, and he does know how to make saves in games. So it's definitely worth having a look at him. They have a lovely fixture to start with in Finland. I will most probably be having a Denmark player in my team, but we'll see how we get on. I do like the look of Kjær in central defence. 5 million I think for him is very good, and also Mæhle as well, playing one of the wing back roles. 4.5 million I think could be in a lot of teams. I think when you are having a look at those kind of players, for 4.5 million for a player that you know is going to start and has the potential to keep clean sheets, and with regards to the point that we've got to have a bench in FanTeam as well, I think he's perfect. I honestly think he's perfect. So I would definitely be looking at somebody like him. I think if you wanted to stretch and go for someone like Kiar instead, that's absolutely fine. And Schmeichel, if you wanted that more assuredness in goal. But I think Mailer's the one, 4.5 million for a player that's going to play and could play in a good team as well. I would take that. When we move on to midfield, Højbjerg and Delaney you shouldn't really be touching anyway. 6.5 million for two defensive midfielders that are just going to be making sure that defence is protected. I wouldn't be all over that. I know Højbjerg not too long ago scored a goal and got an assist for Spurs, but they're very, very rare. You're not expecting that at all. Christian Eriksen is my little dark horse. We all remember the days when he was in the Premier League. He could hit a shot when he wanted to. He's also going to be taking those corners and free kicks as well. I quite like him for 7 million. The reason I really like him for 7 million as well is because I like the fact that if they don't do very well, there are other players I can move him to at that same price bracket that I really like. And I like the idea of being a bit flexible with it. So for 7 million, if they play in that first game against Finland and they're awful, their next game is against Belgium, and I can easily take him out if I wanted to. If Belgium look really assured, and if Denmark look worse than we think they're going to be, then I'm more than happy to take Eriksen out and to bring somebody else in. Absolutely fine. But I do like the look of him personally. I think for 7 million, I think that could be quite good. Poulsen is another player. He does get forward when he wants to as well. I'm not as high on him, mainly because I think Eriksen and Braithwaite could do most of the attacking for them. Braithwaite, I think, for 7.5 million is a stretch. I don't know about you, but I just think 7.5 million when you've got Christian Eriksen, who's so assured in this team and so assured as a footballer, for 0.5 million less, I'd be very surprised if Braithwaite's in many teams. I could be completely wrong there, and he could take this tournament by storm. But I'm just looking at it and thinking, I don't see the value in 7.5 million for him. Up front, it's a lot of rotation up front. Wind, I quite like. 6.5 million. I mean, do you know what? I say I quite like it. I don't really like it. I won't be touching him. I won't be going with Wind, unfortunately. There are some other players that will be playing up front. It could be Yusuf Poulsen up front as well. It could be Dolberg as well playing up front. But I, for the uncertainty of it, I think this is the kind of game where if they don't start well against Finland, they're going to be changing that striker position. They're going to be keeping Eriksen, Braithwaite and Poulsen most probably on. Højbjerg and Delaney will stay on. So what are they going to change? They're going to change the striker. And then if their reserve striker comes in and does well, is he going to play the next game against Belgium? Do you really want him then? And for me, I think it's not worth the hassle. I would be looking, if it was me, Eriksen and Mæhle would probably be the two players I would go for in this team. Mæhle because he's cheap and he's got a nice first fixture, and Eriksen just because he's all around this Denmark team. Schmeichel in goal if you fancy a bit of Premier League representation. Now, next up is Finland. Now, these are tipped to finish bottom in the group, unfortunately. But I will say, when you look at their team and their values, you can see that they're supposed to not do very well. But 4 million players, not too bad. If you wanted to get a player into your team, I think the way FanTeam's working with the bench, you can have one dud on your bench if you wanted to. I wouldn't advise it because I think there is such good value at 4.5 million. But you can have one dud if you want to. Now, the problem is when you've got someone like Hiradeki, Reitala, Toivo and Arajuri, they're all nailed in that team and they will all play. But they're not going to get you any points. You look at their group, they've got Russia, Denmark, Belgium. I'm not expecting them to keep clean sheets in any of those fixtures. They might score the odd goal, and we'll get to their striker in a little bit. But I don't see any points coming from these players. Unless they go up for a corner and all of a sudden Toivo, scores a goal, I just don't see it personally. So I think they're just going to be bench fodder if you want to have one dud. I think Kamara, Spav and Taylor are all much for muchness in midfield. I think if you're going to pick a Finland player, you're either going to pick one of these defenders for 4 million or the keeper for 4 million. If you think about it, you could partner Hiradeki with Courtois and only spend 11 million on your keepers and just play Courtois in every game. Not a bad idea, I guess, but for me, it's not really for me. Up front, though, is where it gets a little bit interesting. Teemu Pukki is only 5 million. We have seen what Pukki can do to elite defences. We saw it in the league 2 years ago when he came up with Norwich. We're probably going to see it again next year when he comes up with Norwich as well. I do like a bit of Pukki. You must say, I do like a bit of Pukki. 5 million. I would not begrudge anybody for putting him in their team, personally. Are you going to expect a lot from him? Probably not. Probably not, if we're perfectly honest. But I do like him. He's a great player and he knows how to finish. It's just whether he's going to get the service. And then Lod next to him, I would be surprised to see him in any teams. And that's mainly because you got Pukki there at exactly the same price. Lod does start up front with him, sometimes plays on the wing with him as well. But for 5 million, I think anybody that would be looking at Lod would just straight away go to Pukki, knowing his calibre and knowing his performance in the leagues that we've seen as well. I wouldn't begrudge anybody going for a bit of Pukki. And then we have the team that is expected to come third. Now, I actually think Russia and Denmark are quite close. The reason I think they're quite close is because Russia seem to have this ability to do well in major tournaments every now and again. Not always, but they do seem to do well every now and again. And they just seem to have that intimidation factor when they go up against teams. And when you think they're going to be going up against Finland, I expect them to beat Finland. Straight away, that's a win. Denmark, I think, will be a close game. I think Denmark might edge it, but I think Russia might do okay against them. And then Belgium, I think Belgium are going to win every game in this group anyway. So let's have a look at this Belgium team and see if there are any bargains or key players that we can talk about. Now, you can see straight away that we're struggling with some of the prices. So Semenov, Kudrashov and Shunin, they should all be playing in this team. One thing I will say about this Russian team, there is quite a lot of rotation. So there are some nailed-on assets, and I'll tell you about them in a minute, but there is a lot of rotation in this Russian team, which is a bit of a shame when you're trying to pick players for a tournament-long game. But if we talk about the players that are nailed, Mario Fernandes, has done it before in the Euros. He is Brazilian-born, and he's got that Brazilian swagger as well. 4.5 million for someone like him that could get attacking, could do well attacking-wise. I think could be worth looking at, especially if you're determined to get a Russian player in your team. I don't mind him, to be honest. I think, as I said, they'll probably do well against Finland, but then it's the other two games, and I don't necessarily see them keeping clean sheets in the other two games. So do you want to be spending that money on Mario Fernandes? For me, I think 4.5 million, when you consider he could be getting some attacking returns as well, I don't mind him too much. Zhirkov, just in front of him, almost 40 years old now. Zhirkov is somebody that we all know very well from his Chelsea days. 4.5 million for a midfielder that was going to be very attacking. The only problem I see with him is he going to be making 90 minutes every game? I don't think so. He's probably going to replace around the 60, 70 minute mark each time. When you look then across the rest of the midfield, the one that stands out for me is Golovin. I really like Golovin as a pick. 6 million though. When you've got somebody like Zhirkov or Fernandes as your Russia representative for your team, it's a stretch to go to somebody like Golovin, especially when you're thinking this team could come third in this group, could even come last if Finland all of a sudden, do something we weren't expecting. I'd be a little bit worried spending 6 million on a player. But he does have the credentials and he is a good player as well. So it is something that maybe it's a bit of personal preference. I don't think I'd be going for it just because I think it's a bit of a stretch with his price based on the team and how I think they're going to perform. But if there's a midfielder in that team that's going to do something, I think it's Golovin. Up front, you got Zauber. Great player. Again, great pedigree, and he's done very well in the Euros before. He's just a hefty man mountain, isn't he? You think, the wingers that they're going to be playing in this tournament and the way they might be able to create against certain teams, Zauber should be able to clean up a little bit. I'm expecting at least a goal. He might get 2 in this tournament. And if that's the case for 5.5 million, for somebody that's probably going to be your third striker, I don't think that's that bad. It's so hard, though, when you're looking at these third strikers and you're comparing them to Yilmaz, who's only 4.5 million and he'll be starting for Turkey. It's so hard when you're thinking, is Zauber worth the money at 5.5 million when he's 1 million more than the player I think is the best bargain in the game? So it's really hard to compare them. But if you think he's worth 1 million more than I forgot his name now and I literally just said it. If you think he's 1 million more than the Turkish striker, it's completely gone. Then obviously you can go for it if you want to. Yilmaz, Jesus God. Then obviously you can go for it. Now, same thing as I did last time. I am going to bring up Motley Barnett's friend of Draft Gym TV. Absolutely brilliant stuff he does on his FF Collective website. And we have brought up who he thinks are the bargains and the key players to pick from Group B. Now, as we're looking at it, he has gone for Hideki in goal. I can't believe it. For me, I unless you're going for that playing keeper and then bench fodder, I wouldn't be going for Hideki. Yes, he's 4 million. Yes, that's brilliant value. But for me, I think I'd be over Kasper Schmeichel in this group. I like the fact the Danes can defend when they want to. I like the fact Schmeichel is assured and he knows what he's doing in goal. And you know he's nailed as well. And for 5.5 million, I think that's quite good. I can understand why he went for Hideki. But for me, I think Schmeichel all the way. And then he has gone for the double up in defence for Denmark. Was and Mæhle. Yeah, brilliant. Really, really like that. I don't like the price of Was personally. I think 6 million for a defender from Denmark might be a bit much, but Mæhle, completely agree. I think I'd probably go for Kjær instead. Meunier, we've already spoken about a little bit before. He could be usurped by Castagna, or it could be Meunier and Castagna. We've just got to keep a little bit of an eye on that. But if Meunier plays, he is gold dust. He is a great little player. And then Mario Fernandes at the back as well. I've already mentioned him before, which is brilliant. So it's good to see that me and Motley are on similar thoughts there. Now, as you can see as well, he's obviously got the triple up of Belgium, which is exactly what I said I would do. He has picked the same three I said as well. Lukaku, De Bruyne and Meunier. I think they're the three. I think I'd be very, very surprised if a team is doing well in this tournament and doesn't have double or triple Belgium. I think it just looks too good for me. He's also opted for Eriksen and Golovin as well. They seem to be the playmakers in their teams. They're going to be the ones taking the set pieces as well. So you know they're going to be involved if their teams score. And I think this seems to be compared to Group A, where me and Motley were a little bit different in a few cases. I think that front six kind of picks itself, really. Like I said, Eriksen and Golovin, completely agree with those. He has got a bit of Pukki up front, Pukki party, and he's got a lovely fixture to start with, and Zayuba as well. Obviously, the thing with Zayuba to start with is they're playing Belgium. I don't expect much from Russia against Belgium, but for the other two fixtures, they're quite nice. I forgot to mention, by the way, Denmark play all 3 games in Copenhagen. Could be something to think about there. You think they're going to have home advantage in all 3 games? I think that's something to look into personally. Eriksen and maybe someone like Mæhle might be quite good. Like I said, I'm going to be on Eriksen, I think, and I quite like that as a pick. Right. Thank you so much for joining me. That is the end of Group B. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you go on Draft Gym as well. We are going to be putting, and we haven't actually put it on there yet, but we are going to be putting our referral link in there soon as well. So if you are new to FanTeam and you want to deposit, then we will enable you to deposit and also get a bit of a gift from us while you do it. Yes, we do get something as well, but that's the joy of being friends, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed the stream, and make sure you do like and subscribe. I wish you luck, and we will be seeing you soon for Group C. Oi, oi.